Hello, I'm Gordon from CameraLabs.com, and this is a very quick video overview of the Canon SELPHY CP-1300 photo printer. This little device can produce standard 6x4" postcard prints like you see before you here. Here's a print that I output earlier from this machine. It looks exactly like the kind of print you'd get from a lab, except it's in your home. Now this printer is a Wi-Fi device. It's designed to connect to your wireless network, after which you can print from pretty much any other device that's connected to your network. So I've printed from my laptop, from iPads, and from various smartphones, including my Android Galaxy S7, which I'll show you in just a moment. Now you can't just print wirelessly, you can print directly if you prefer. There's a port here for connecting USB media, or a smaller USB port here for directly connecting a compatible camera. And if your camera is lucky enough to support PictBridge wirelessly, then you can print wirelessly direct from the camera to the printer. And I've tried this with various Canon cameras and it works really well. Alternatively, there is of course an SD memory card slot on the front. Pop your memory card in there, choose your print or your image from the screen here, and you can output it very easily. So there's lots of options. I'm just going to show you now how it works in practice. Now, the first thing you need to do is load your ink spool, your ink cartridge on the side here. This has got cyan, magenta, yellow and an overcoat. Once that's slotted in the side, we can connect the power source. Now it comes with an AC power supply that I plug in the back there, but if you prefer to use this portably, you can in fact buy an optional battery pack for it. Then you open up the slot on the front and you load the paper cartridge. Now I've already put some postcard size paper in here, and this cartridge will keep the paper protected from dust while you're not using the printer, but as soon as you do want to use it, you need to open this flap at the top and slot it in the front. Then we can power up the printer and have a look at this 3.2" screen. Sadly not touch sensitive, but you can use it again to select those pictures directly from SD or other media, or to go through different printing options. You can change the colors, you can change the contrast, you can crop in. You can also print multiple pictures on one sheet, and I'll show you that in just a moment. First of all, let's actually see what this is like to print directly from the smartphone. So as I say, this is connected to my wireless network, as is my phone. And here is the Canon app. Now you can print directly using Mopria from Android phones, although I couldn't get it to fill the paper properly when I tried. Maybe I need a bit more effort, but I don't really want to waste too many sheets of paper doing this. So instead I installed the Canon app and it worked absolutely fine. I should say it also worked absolutely fine printing using AirPrint from an iPad, or again using the Canon app for iOS. Those are free downloads. So I'm going to choose photo print here, and these are some images I've got on my phone. I'm going to use this one, I think, of I believe it's a Stellar's jaybird. I took a picture of this bird with a Canon EOS 80D while I was in Bryce Canyon in the USA. This is a very local bird to that part of town. As you can see, this image has gone to my wireless network and back into the printer, and the process has begun. The printer has taken some paper through it. You can see it pops out the back there, so make sure you don't have anything behind the printer to block that. Sorry for the flickering on my phone screen, by the way. That's because the screen is using a different frequency to the one I'm recording this movie in. So you can see that was the yellow ink pass. Now it's doing the magenta or the pink pass. And finally, very importantly, of course, for this bird, the cyan or light blue. Now at this point, when the print comes out on this run, pretty much all those colours are there, but the final pass is for an overcoat. And that's it. That is a pretty quick process. And the print is completely ready to go at this point. It's dry, that you don't need to wait for it to set or anything. That print is good. Now you'll see that the paper is actually slightly longer than 6x4". It's got these white borders at the top and the bottom. This is so the printer can actually pull it through the device, but you can also use it to write some notes on if you want, a bit like a Polaroid, or they're perforated so you can just cut or tear them off, and that works fine. You're left with a standard 6x4" print. Here's a few others that I've printed out with the CP-1300. This is a portrait shot I took with the Sony A7R Mark III. I printed that directly from the memory card. Here is a shot in New York that I took with the EOS 6D Mark II. This was printed wirelessly using PictBridge direct from the camera. It's really nice to be able to do that. Here's a shot I took with the Fujifilm X-E3. In this instance, I put in the memory card, the SD card. I should mention that when you do put in the SD memory card, the printer basically forgets that it's a wireless printer and it will concentrate only on what's in that SD slot. So if you do want to wirelessly print afterwards, make sure you eject that SD card. This was taken in Portugal. This is with the Fuji X-E3 again. And now, I mean, this is quite a challenging shot to print. This is the solar eclipse from 2017. I took this with the EOS 80D and 400mm f5.6. Now, I've printed this from Photoshop using my laptop. I've cropped in a little bit and centered the disc on the center of the picture. But this sort of picture has got very, very subtle tonal gradations. And as you can see, it's the kind of picture that works best with a glossy dye sublimation process, which of course is what this printer is. This looks way better than any inkjet print that I've made of it. Now, I mentioned earlier that you can do multiple pictures per print. So that's what I've done here. These are pictures all taken with the Fujifilm X-E3, and what I did is I inserted the memory card and chose the option. You can put up to 8 pictures on a single page if you want, or fewer ones, and it lets you choose the pictures, and it then arranges them. It thinks for a while, because these are quite high-res shots. Thinks for a while and then outputs it. That's quite neat. Even though it's only 6x4 inch, you can really see quite a lot of detail on those. Now, the logical progression, if you're printing multiple images on one sheet of paper, is to produce photos for ID purposes, for passports and driving licenses. So I'm going to show you that now. I've inserted an SD card on which I've got a number of portraits, but before we go to the ID section, I just want to show you how you actually navigate pictures. So this menu here says select and print. So let's have a look. Here's a portrait shot of yours truly. And if I go through these images, you can see I can preview them on the screen, but the screen is quite low resolution. It's not really high enough for me to see whether any of these are perfectly in focus or not. Which one of those is the ideal shot? Now, you can zoom in, fortunately, but look how long it takes. Zoom in again. And now, only now can we really begin to see whether this shot is in focus. I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to do an ID photo with that image. But I wish the screen was high resolution as you would find on a modern camera, and also that the user interface was as fast. I mean, if you think about playing back a picture on a camera, it's really, really quick to zoom in and out. So I think this could do with being a bit more responsive. So if I go back to the home menu, I can go down to the ID photo section. Now, it gives me a number of options here. I'm going to go for the standard layout here. This is for standard passport print size photos. It's going to say, you happy with that picture? Well, I've looked at that one earlier and remembered the code for it, so yes, I am. Now, it would just normally print this picture as it is, and that's obviously the wrong sort of shape for an ID photo. It needs to be cropped more closely into the face. But how close should you go? Well, they help you with some cropping options. If I go to the menu here and choose cropping, again, it takes a couple of seconds for each of these steps, but now you can see these guidelines. Now, these are the same sort of things you see when preparing passport photos on other platforms. The idea is to get the chin on the green line and the top of the head on the blue line. So I can move that down, I can move it up, I can zoom in, zoom out. Let's see, that still needs to go a little bit closer. It's getting there, I reckon. That's about right. I'm going to move that over there. Get my head in the middle of the frame. So we'll OK that. And then we'll say, yeah, I want 6 of those on a sheet. I'm ready to print. So while that goes away, let's kind of conclude what this print is about. And this is as good a time as any to mention the price of it. You're looking at about $130 or about £130 to actually buy the device itself. The running cost is obviously very important. Canon sells a pack of paper and ink for 108 prints, and that pack is about $29 or about £29, which works out at about 27 cents or about 27 pence per print. Now, that's obviously quite a bit more expensive than you could get at a lab, or especially if you're doing online photo printing. Some of those volumes are really, really cheap. But you've got to think about the convenience factor. First of all, I'm printing this at home. I'm not having to actually go to a lab. And if you did, you'd find that those cheaper prices generally were for a service that might take a few hours turnaround. Actually, let's have a look at my ID photos. Not bad. 6 Gordons for your viewing pleasure. Obviously, if you went online, you would have to wait for those prints to be delivered. And there would be a delivery fee. So sometimes when you see a 6x4" print being advertised at, say, 5p or 5 cents a print, that sounds fantastically cheap, but maybe not so cheap if you're then going to be paying a couple of dollars or a couple of pounds to get it delivered, and also obviously waiting a couple of days for it to arrive. So as always, it boils down to convenience and how long you're willing to wait. For me, I think the SELPHY CP-1300 is a really, really nice printer. I'd certainly be happy having one at home. Here's another picture that I printed earlier. This is with the Sony RX100 Mark II, an older camera, but bright and clear with murmuration looking very nice behind it there. I would see it as a really good complement to an existing printer. I have a color laser printer at home, which is great for documents, great for invites and that sort of thing, terrible for photos. If I want to print big photos, I go to a lab or an online service. I don't have an inkjet printer at home because I find that they get clogged up far too easily. And, you know, if you're not using an inkjet that much, that is the big problem with them. However, if you're only doing occasional prints, I think a printer like this could be really good. So certainly I would be happy to have this in my home. As always, if you want a lot more detail, head on over to cameralabs.com. You'll find a more detailed review with more information there. And of course, my reviews of every other camera. If you like what I do, please do subscribe. It really, really helps. And if you really, really like what I do and are feeling generous, then you can buy me a coffee, treat me to a coffee using the link in the description. Anyway, thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.